Thank you. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lesedi Mulifi, and welcome to the first, actually, session of this nature. It's called Make Noise and Hold on Applause. It's my first time moderating a session here at the OpenBookFestival. I'm usually in your seat. But yeah, today I'm really, really looking forward to speaking to you guys. Absolutely phenomenal novels you've got. I'm really looking forward to unpacking them. The session is called Make Noise and Hold All Applause for a couple of reasons. It's about sort of what it means to be louder about sort of the inner parts of us that we usually leave in the silence, and how often those parts that we leave ourselves sort of in the silence sort of manifest as inner noise, a disturbance on the inside. And hold all applause is about not looking for applause for it, not really looking to make sense. And in so doing, this is also an invitation for you to be a big part of the conversation too. Initially, the thinking was, we would also have, so the conversation will be, the first 45 minutes we'll be talking to our phenomenal authors, and then we'd like to open it up to you as well. We'll offer some prompts to the audience too. Unfortunately, we won't be able to show them up on screen, but I will read them out. So you're not the only ones asking questions today. We're going to be asking you guys some questions too. And that's really because we really want this to feel like a really nice, free-flowing conversation for everybody. Please welcome Andile, Cele, author of Braids and Migraines. Mpho Boshego, author of Diplomatic Ties. And Nthato Mokgata. Is it Nthato Mokgata, or should I introduce it as Spook Matambo?
Nthato Mokgata.
Nthato Mokgata, okay, cool. Author of Ghost in the Drum. All phenomenal novels that I really enjoyed and can't wait to hear about more. Each one of your books sees these characters pursue a dream, pursue something that they are in dire need of. And then that dream starts to feel more like survival as I continue to read each of your novels more. Nthato, starting with you, TC. Please tell us the story of TC and how that sort of, his dream starts to feel more like a nightmare.
Yeah. I think it speaks to the nature of capitalism. He's a musician, he's an artist, and from being a child, it's his nature, and his talent is picked up by the whole community. Everybody's really in love with it, but through entering the formal industry and moving from a township music space into, at first, Joburg's wider, metropolitan, cosmopolitan music space, to Cape Town, and that's very far from him, from Atteridgeville, to eventually touring around the world. The dream just becomes something else because it becomes a chase as opposed to an expression of what he started out for.
Right.
And the reality is also that in the music space, a lot of the people that are held up as the paragons of reaching the ambition, it's sad stories. So a lot of it is a bit of cautionary tale embedded in there where you're like, even if I chase my dream and I reach it, is it like burning, you know what I mean? Is it going catching the sun? And
for sure. Andile, can you tell us a bit more about Braids and Migraines and Unomandla and sort of her pursuit of education, her dream of sort of education starts to also feel like a nightmare?
Yeah, sure. So, Braids and Migraines looks at this protagonist, Nomandla, who grows up in a township. It's post-apartheid, early 2000s. And she gets an opportunity to study in Durban. And it looks amazing, right? It's an opportunity for her to empower herself and maybe empower her family when she's done with her studies. And then when she, and obviously because it's post-apartheid, it's the early 2000s, she has inherited, the trauma of the historical trauma, basically, lives inside of her, as a, she sees it everywhere she goes, right? So there's also a part in the book where she goes to work with her dad Saturdays, and so she knows that she needs to work, the whole working, working yourself to whatever, right? And then the school that she goes to, Cameron House, she even says that it's produce results or die. So it no longer feels like a space of learning, no longer feels fun. It feels like she is really, it feels like a war, right? It feels like, she is just surviving, Getting that matric now is the most difficult thing, that she's ever faced in her life. And I mean, you'll see in the book that she, I don't know if it's a spoiler.
Giving away too much.
Yeah, but I mean, at some point, she matriculates in a different school, and she matriculates in a township school. And so it gives her, it's a different perspective, right? Because she has been led to believe that she needed to be at Cameron House to be something, right? And it's very difficult for her to reconcile with the fact that she needs to go back to the township and finish her matric. And so, so it's a very, she just goes through the most, and I think so many of us can relate to that, whether it's varsity or,
Please, similar themes for Mbali in diplomatic ties. Can you please tell us more about it?
So the story, Diplomatic Ties, is about Mbali Langa, a young South African woman who on paper looks perfect. She's ambitious, she's educated, and now she has a chance to go represent her country abroad as a diplomat. But beneath the surface, there's a girl who has not yet found her voice. There's a girl who is carrying the burden of the expectations from her family because she's coming from an impoverished background. And now this dream that she has to go abroad and become this diplomat is burdened by the expectations from everyone. And she feels like she is carrying this on her shoulders. So the story goes through seeing Bali navigate all these different layers of trying to find her voice, of a culture shock coming from South Africa and going to live in a new country for the very first time, encountering new people, falling in love for the first time. But also there's, it's funny, but it's a young woman coming of age, and it's a story about betrayal, story about political and power as well. So it's a very, I feel like a very deep story of seeing a young woman come of age. And I wrote this also in the first person because I think even for me, I was trying to also explore the concept of what happens when survivalism becomes like a personality. When you just keep running and trying to find the new thing, and you are listening to everybody except yourself, because actually there's so much noise inside of you from what everybody else is expecting from you. You don't even have space to sit and figure out what it is that I want. So the story was also interesting for me because I feel like I was exploring this concept, but Mbali was also taking shape in answering who she is to me and what the survivalism thing means to her. So, yeah.
What I really love about like all of these books is there's these three characters. It's TC's Nomandla, it's Mbali, and they are all born into conditions we're very familiar with. I think, especially as Black South Africans, right?
Yeah.
Like structurally, structurally debilitating systems. Just the very bottom of sort of how society is stratified. And they are all actively trying to make it out into another imagined stage of their lives, right?
And they all succeed.
Eventually,
It
yes.
sounds like, or they
Yeah.
get not succeed in a thing, but they get to where they thought they wanted to
Correct.
be, and then realize that isn't.
I think it's so interesting, the word succeed, right? I think that's very sort of what it means for them for them to succeed. But before we get there, and I'd really like to talk about what success looks like, what do they have to give up in order to sort of like get to this imagined place in the future, right? A lot of the time we use this phrase, I came from nothing, right? I mean, it's something, every rapper loves to say that, like, maybe not spook, right? But like a lot of rappers are sort of like, I sort of came from nothing. And sort of this idea of reducing these conditions that they each come from as a nothing is interesting because they all suppress it. Can we talk more about that? How much of yourself you need to lose in order to sort of get to this imagined place?
In Ghost in the Drum, I deal with Cele's roots as kind of the raw minerals, the raw natural resources that the world is extracting and exploiting,
Right.
And as he moves further away from that energy center, he loses his artistic relation with himself. And then there becomes the question of if I have to change, how much I have to change myself in order for the world to accept me.
Exactly.
How much I have to change myself for white Cape Town to accept me. How much I have to change myself for French, liberal, who thinks they are, progressive, but actually will say something very crazy.
Right.
And navigating those spaces.
I think for Nomandla, it's really, it's remembering or reconciling with the fact that she does come from somewhere. And that she does not come from nothing, per se, She's got the sisterhood in the township. She's got the twins.
Right.
And she's got, her dad, no spoilers, but we'll just park that for now. But she's got the sisterhood, and she's got the memory that we see when the book opens, the landscape, the running around the township, and the houses are so close to each other. The shack, even though the shack is not perfect, it's skew. And I'm not trying to romanticize, that poverty. But she does come from somewhere and something.
Yeah.
And I think her fear of, having to go back, the fear was that it is nothing, and therefore if I go back, I will amount to nothing.
Right.
And so she needed to reconcile with the fact that there are other people that are there, she's got the twins there. It is a place, and you can do something with that place, within that place. It didn't have to happen, but it did. But also, it was a healing for her to come to terms with the trauma of poverty.
Right.
Yeah. I think for Mbali as well, it's not thinking that you come from nothing. It's knowing that from wherever you stand, there can always be improvement. And I think she watched her grandmother take care of her aunt, her uncle, her mother as well, and her little sister. And she felt that she could do something to also help improve the situation of the family. And I think we see in the book as well, as she goes through, her trials and tribulations, that every time she feels like she needs to be re-energized, she always thinks about home. So home to her is the love of, her grandmother, her family, her uncle's dreams as well, realizing that her uncle also had dreams to travel the world and become something, but because of circumstances that he found himself in, he could not do that. So it's that thing as well, that it's not nothing. It is, it's where love is. It's where, her roots are, but she knows, just like we all know, that there can always be improvement from where you stand. Even if you think, your things are going well, we always reaching for something more. So, and I think that's her story.
It is a real place.
Can I ask a
Like you were
question?
just saying,
Can I ask a question about the value judgment of a better community, And in my story, all the communities that he goes to are not better than the one he's from. What about in yours? You know what I mean? In terms of the personhood and the security and the network that he has, which is real. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think improvement, I'm speaking from a perspective that when you are in primary school, for example, you want to do well so you can move on to high school and then move on to university. Like there is this evolution, that takes place as a human being. We evolve all the time. You realize that, you have talents and gifts and all of that, and you can give more of yourself, not to strain yourself and effort so much, but, you've got something to give, and there's always something to look forward to. There's always more. There's a bigger world out there to explore, and other relationships and friendships and all of that. So I think I'm speaking from that perspective, and that's why I said as well that every time she felt like, she's feeling a little bit diminished, she always knew to go back to the love, because love will always just remain just that, even though you're looking for improvement in material kind of world.
Are you making a case for that? That, this idea of an improved community is actually already real in your own community? Is that why you asked?
My protagonist, Cele, was specifically running from home, from the house.
Yeah.
And always felt that the grass would be greener.
Right.
And it's only, the same way you've learned your home, so you know all the problems. As soon as you learn other people's homes, Nthato thing, either way. Yeah.
Right.
And so his travels around the world do expose those things that he thought, the music and art and entertainment has this glamorous sheen, but there's a lot of just exploitation, slog, like nasty side of it, or diminishing personhood. And
I'm interested in what you said, Andile, about sort of, I guess the shame that comes with what you came from. Leaving that behind also means leaving a part of yourself behind. Can we talk about that a little bit more? In terms of your identity.
I think at first, I'll talk about a very short-lived experience. When I left home for Pretoria, I never knew that I was poor or that I came from a disadvantaged background, right? I think it's because I was around people that were similar to me. And so when I left and I lived at Res in Pretoria, that's when I actually realized that I actually don't come from much, and that is very shocking to the system.
Right.
Shocking in a sense that if someone came to my room, for example, in fact, when I went to other people's rooms, they had very nice bedding, They had a microwave, they had a fridge.
They had a microwave, yeah.
Yeah, like a microwave, a fridge, a very nice carpet there, it's looking pink, laptops, computers at the time. And then you come to my room, I think I had a hand-me-down bedding, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I'm like, in my first year,
Right.
you know, it's stuff like that. So, and then it's the comments that you hear from people, you know. Eventually, you come to this place where you, it's like a shell now. You start to go inward,
Right.
you know, and you feel ashamed of, because it's new, because it feels new. You know, this is, you know, this is how other people perceive me, and it's like very new, so it's very like shocking to your system. So you want to like hide it almost, but
Right.
and you can't really. It always like comes out in a way until you reconcile with that. And I think that's what Nomandla is going through. You know, being at Cameron House, and she meets very, you know, lovely friends. But they come from different backgrounds. They're well read, you know, and she's not. She comes from a place where there's no library, right? And she's playing catch up, you know, so she needs to like reconcile with that and just be okay with, you know, this is, it is what it is, right? So, yeah, so there is a shame when you first discover some things about yourself, I guess.
And there's a lot of sort of mental health implications for that.
Yeah.
Right? That are quite hurtful and painful. I mean, with Umbali, you know, that sort of, we see that sort of alienation. The idea that her normal is not everyone else's normal makes her kind of suppress herself and who she is and move in the world in a way that feels like a lie. And what does that feel like? I mean, we talk about that small.
Yeah, I think, you know, with that, with Mbali, she knew where she, you know, what her circumstances, she knows what her circumstances are. And so when she's at university, she works really hard because in her mind, that's the only way to better her circumstances. But I think a deeper thing, I don't know what to call it, like something that she needed the most was the validation from her parents that she is brilliant, you know, that she's smart, that she does not have to effort so much in getting all these things because, you know, she must just, you know, be a girl and study if you want to study and go achieve all these things. But she never had that. So in her journey, what we see is she starts to seek out these validations from other people. And I'm just going to say this, still read the book, but while she's at Department of Foreign Affairs, because that's where you work when you are going to be like a South African diplomat.
Right.
Yeah.
And then she goes on diplomatic training. One of the excursions or outings that they do is to go and visit the minister. Because I used to work at Department of Foreign Affairs at some point. So seeing the minister is a bit of a treat, right? Because they are somewhere else, you know, so you see them on the television. So now the group goes and they meet the minister. And while they are there, Mbali can feel that the minister is watching her, you know, and she tries to look around and ignore him, but you know, she can feel his eyes on her. Long story short, the meeting ends, the minister asks for her and says to her, I think you're really brilliant, and I think, you know, you can be like a star, and I would really like to mentor you on this journey, you know, of becoming a diplomat, because I think you're gonna be one of our best. And she's never really heard this before, even though she has achieved so much in terms of she's gone through university and done so well and got into this department, and now she's in training. Obviously, she's going to go out and, you know, to be a diplomat. But now there's this father figure that she never had telling her how amazing she is, and she eats it up. And what we see is that, you know, there are people who prey on impressionable younger women or men that have not yet found their voice, and they're looking for validation from outside because they never had it at home. And, you know, Sombali basically falls into this trap of feeling like, you know, she's loved and she, you know, she's validated in some ways. And I think, yeah, this basically her story of like how all these different external focuses, if you don't focus inside, can like lead you into choices and behaviors that you're not really proud of.
So to sort of validate who she is.
Yes, because she never had that, you know? So when someone now all of a sudden is telling her these things that she's wanted to hear all her life, it just takes a turn.
And so does she, is it a performance of something that she feels other people will want to validate?
Because you know, when you, I've always felt that the best things you can give your kids is to help them believe in themselves. Because even though life will always happen, but it's almost like half the job done. You know, when your parents or your caregiver told you that you really are good and you can go out into the world and, you know, don't be intimidated.
Right.
People that are in the world, they're just also trying to find their ways and just go around and play with them and, you know, create stuff with them. But if you don't get that, I feel like it's such a significant thing to have. If you don't have that, people seek it out in other people and, you know, habits and, you know, behaviors that are not always good for them.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is a question for Spook or for Spook Matambo or for TC, right? But, you know, so now this validation, which is actually an important part of, I guess, his cultural work, right? It's for people to listen to it, for people to vibe to it, you know, hearing it in taxi ranks. Where is the tension between staying true to yourself versus the actual, you know, material value of this validation? You know, and where do you betray yourself, and where do you not?
My title's Ghost in the Drum, and the ghost is Cele. He's not fully a person.
Oof.
There's a real missing personhood and something that he's hidden from a lot of disappointment. And even though his brilliance is so, you know what I mean, such vibrance and brilliance that it's seen from across the world, he feels an imminent disappointment. He feels like it's coming. And so he just shoves all the pride and ambition that he had. And so drugs also fall into that, you know. A numbing of stress. I think South Africa is really stressful.
Right.
I mean, I guess the world is stressful, and it's always being chased by a, you know, woolly mammoth is stress. So the stress has always been there, but this moment, this cost of living, this aspirational thing of you have to dress like this, you have to look like this, you have to be this, you have to live there. Yeah. It's stressful, and I can see a mode of, like, what did they say in the 70s? Tune out, and, you know, yeah.
Is it possible then to find, so you brought up success earlier on, right? And I mean, for these guys who also just need these dreams, not just, you know, as a realization of their talents, but because they need to help their families, because they need to get educated, because, you know, is it then possible to kind of seek out or achieve the success without literally destroying your own mental health?
Sure.
Yeah, under healthy circumstances.
Yes.
I think what you're talking about, building that home base as your first wanaka oka, Cele's coming from super traumatic. His family runs a morgue, a mortuary, township mortuary family, and that's a business that, you know, is inherited and it comes from the grandfather and they're a center of the community, so it's expected that he's going to do it. But having seen that on their property since he was a child, he hates it and he had to work there. So an aspect is the escape and the dislocation, and he was running for success, but the trauma is too much.
He's
At a
running from
point.
success and trauma.
Then I say he's running to success, but the
Right.
trauma is too much, and that's what
Right.
I think that's what limits him and makes him the ghost, that he can't bounce
And that's what I
above
find
this.
so interesting about, is sort of the trauma inherent in sort of this pursuit of, or the trauma inherent in just sort of participating in a capitalist system, right? Especially when you're starting from a position that actually most people don't even get to start from TC's position, right? I mean, I think of Nomanda and I think of Mbali, who had a much more dire sort of starting point. Is it possible to sort of kind of pursue survival and success without taking on big traumatic scars?
I guess what I was trying to get to the point of, if his family was behind him more, I believe it would have been less arduous. He would have not have to sleep in the street just to make beats, you know what I mean? He wouldn't have had to run so hard to follow his dream. And yeah, it adds additional stress unnecessarily. Whereas I think if you can give that first wanaka fly.
Yeah, that emotional support. Yeah.
Yeah. But also, I
Yeah.
think that, the whole, like the characters in the books, I feel like it's all our stories, right? Where you can always do better. When you're at work, you can always get a promotion. And, you can or move to a different department and all of that. And I think the mental health issue, I think whether you come from a disadvantaged or advantaged background, you're a human being. So, and your mind goes everywhere with you. It's you, and not being able to.
Different resources.
Well, that is correct. But yes. So, but also when you from say you are, your parents love you, and you're being told that you are amazing, but you still get into spaces like in a workplace. Like when we see with Mbali, she goes into the workplace, and there's so much competition as well, and there's so many influences from everywhere, and people are asking so much of you, and without having an outlet like later in the book, she learns how to basically center herself and regulate her nervous system, so to speak, because all of us are going through that, like even today, people are talking about like, oh, I'm feeling so anxious, I'm feeling like this, and it's
She's
all,
like people, then she looks over here.
no, I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you and everybody. But no, it's not true. It's not you. So, but it's basically that thing. It's like before you come to meet other people, you kind of like need to relax yourself so that you can bring the best of yourselves forward. After you've interacted with people, it's always good to take time out and just like woosa a little bit. I think so. Mental health and being out there trying to succeed in whatever you're trying to do, I think it follows all of us. So it's not a story of someone perhaps coming from a certain type of background. I think it's just a human thing that all of us need to take care of ourselves regardless, I think.
I'd like to ask you to please just read just that part around at the beginning of part 3 of your book. I think where Mbali, starts to sort of reconcile with herself, right? Starts to sort of reintegrate into herself. She's, she has a starting point. She goes out into the world. She goes out into Brussels. She loses herself, and she slowly begins to return to herself.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong. This is the stage of the book. Yes.
Yes. So this is part 3. Basically, part 1 of the book is Mbali in Pretoria at the Department of Foreign Affairs. She's in training. She's going to go out. She does fall into situations where she has an affair with the minister. and has this boyfriend, and things don't go so well. And now, she really wants to escape her life, and she ends up in Brussels as a diplomat. And, she does encounter certain issues over there that I will not get into, so that everybody can read for themselves. I don't want to spoil anything for everyone. But then, really at the end is, she's just kind of like found a way to come back to herself.
Right.
And this is a very short.
Please.
I'll have to put my glasses on.
That's okay.
So it says, the last several months I've been running, thinking I could outrun the consequences of my choices. But here I am, standing still, facing myself. All the excuses I've clung to, the mistakes I've protected, they are no longer shields. They're just weight holding me down. It's time to stop running, to stop defining myself by what others expect or what I think I should be. The truth is, I've been avoiding myself. But now, if I'm going to move forward, I have to own every part of me, the mistakes, the lessons, and the strength I never knew I had. No more hiding, no more running. It's time to be fearless. It's time to live for me.
Yeah, you can clap. That was good. I know it says hold all applause, but you mentioned earlier that you wanted to write it in first person. There's moments in the book where it feels very, very, very personal. And I guess to all three of you guys, how much of these stories, these characters that you've created, feel deeply personal as that passage felt? And why did they have to exist?
Yeah,
Andile.
I think firstly, I just want to make a comment about your protagonist. He comes from a family that is, they have a business of...
Mortuary.
Yeah, I find that so interesting because their business is around people who have died, like death, right? And he, metaphorically, it ties into the historical trauma, right? So it's like, when you look at this family, they are holding, I don't know, that's why he's so depressed, because it's, he comes from, there's so much darkness, and he wants to be freed from that. I just found that so interesting when you look at it metaphorically, that it's like, it is death, it is the historical trauma, it is like apartheid. He has inherited stuff from grandfather, father, so it's, and it's stuff that we carry as well, it's like what we experience as a collective and then as individuals. Back to your question, it was around how much of me is in the book.
And why the character had to exist, what compelled you to sort of write the story?
Yeah, so I will say that it's the feelings that Nomandla goes through, and the stuff that she needs to, the things that she is negotiating with, are very, I guess, my own feelings as well. I have a different story to hers because it is a work of fiction, but the feelings and the fact that she comes from KZN, I come obviously from KZN, the going to work with her dad every Saturday in this very nice farm place. I grew up in a farm, so it was very easy for me to describe the lusciousness of the farm, the sugarcane fields, and all of that. So it's stuff that I experienced myself, and there was a lot of peace that I found at the farm. It was very hidden from everything else, and that's where my mom worked as a domestic worker. So so there are stuff that Nomandla needs to heal from. And it's basically also reconciling with the fact that she, the fear of man, the poverty trauma, it's so real because when I was finalizing the manuscript, I had just taken a break from work. And the fear was, what if I, how am I going to survive, right? And so I'm very lucky to have had a fiance at the time, and my mom was very supportive. I mean, my mom is a domestic worker, but every month she sent me 1,000 rand, I know, every month. So to just be able to work on the manuscript, I was away from work for 8 months. And obviously I was applying for work while I was, but I needed to be away from the work situation because it was just not working for my mental health. It was just not working anymore. So I needed to come back to myself and actually, find meaning, right? So I will say that the writing of the book was in some ways script to a therapy for me. It was really a release, and yeah.
Nthato? You looked shocked.
I think I think it's to take the.
What Andile was saying earlier on, like I wasn't sure if you were shocked, if it was news to you, or if it actually was a deliberate metaphorical choice.
No,
that
the metaphorical choice does run through and texturally, and it runs through. That's the title. It's all in there, but the way you laid it to the metaphor of deaths of apartheid and that level of trauma is another opening. To understand why he's like that. But as far as how much of it is in me, I actually made a very conscious effort to not make my debut novel biographical, and I very much based it. It's a love letter to a friend of mine who's late, someone who passed away, who influenced me a lot. And speaking about the spaces that the book takes place in is my entry into his world and how I think I saw and perceived, and then stories that we shared. So it's a composite of some of my personal experience, friend of mine, and Yeah.
Why did you think the character needed to exist for readers? I mean, I understand for you, you wanted to tribute to Pumlani?
No. Another friend of mine called Marvin. He, just in music making a very big influence, and he's from Attridgeville. My book is a story about a township on the west of Pretoria that, since around the late 90s, has really been at the forefront of electronic music in a lot of ways. It's where Skija, Township Funk, Bacardi comes from. And now this new wave, even Tyler, to say Bacardi, Pelindawa. So I first went as a fan, as a journalist, to interview, and then we formed a great friendship, started bands together, made music together. And on his passing, I, have done, it was almost like, it was very therapeutic. It was a very therapeutic experience.
Right. And do you feel writing a character like TC is
No. And why is it important for readers? I think really I wanted to. That aspect of glamour is, I think it damages a lot of potential amazing scientists, potential amazing bioengineers, or whatever, people who just think the glamour of music.
Yeah.
Is that
No,
is that what you meant?
you know what I mean?
Blind.
And there's an aspect of it which is obviously culture and youth energy, but there's another side of it where it's glamour and it's anti-academic to a side where it's saying, okay, no, I don't need to do that because this black coffee, And so TC, I wanted it to be a really homegrown story of, yes, the wildest dream can happen. You can go from the top you can go from the bottom, to the supposed bottom of society, to the supposed top, but that can also be inverted. And at that supposed top, you look and be like, oh shit, I need to get home.
Oof.
Yeah.
For Mbali, diplomatic ties, I mean,
She's a lot, eh?
a lot. Yeah,
No,
listen,
so
Minister Zulu knows that's true.
yeah. So
Is the
story
minister real?
It's a made-up story, guys. Okay.
Now we gotta investigate.
Okay. So, but what I do have in common with Mbali is that at some point I did also work at the Department of Foreign Affairs.
Sure.
And I was posted as a diplomat to Brussels. So, and I think that's why I was able to write about it in, with such detail because I've lived there for 4 years. The street names, that it's always raining, that kind of stuff. So from that aspect, yes, fully. But I think also, just being a human being and watching myself and my friends, I think it's everyone's story, the story of when your dream becomes now a burden because it now becomes like it's this shared collective thing. Other people expect so many things from you because, now you're living this supposed dream. And, but like I said before, the whole concept of, what does a person who's always in survival mode look like? And I think I have been in survival mode quite a lot. My friends as well.
By show of
people,
hands, I'm
you know what I mean? So, and it was, so I shared that with her, with her as well. It's just that, of course, her story just takes on another form. But yeah, I just wanted to explore that because being in survival mode is like you're always so stressed out.
No doubt.
You're always thinking you can do better. People always, my father used to like to say to me, the government is saying they're supporting women now. And I don't know why he would say that to me, and it made me feel like, oh my gosh, if maybe I don't do something, then I'm a failure or, so you're kind of just wanting to do better because, and my friends as well, I've seen them just being so stressed out. And I think that does affect I think stress is the mental health and people get sick. Correct. And people give up on their dreams because they can't keep up with almost like the momentum of like this dream that they've put in motion because they're just kind of like being pulled in so many different directions, so yeah.
So many fascinating things you guys have spoken about, even around failure. But one that sticks out for me is, just the idea of trying to create a life, trying to be a human being without structural support, and how that inevitably will require you to do things that you might later on have to forgive yourself for. And can we talk more about that for each of your characters? I mean, start with Nthato. Interestingly, you said, this world that you pursue could end up being the world you need to get away from and to return to home, right? There's sort of all of these contradictions. That process of sort of finding forgiveness for yourself, which I think is also something you write so beautifully about sort of in that passage, is like, fuck it, man, I had to survive. And these are the things that I had to do to survive. These are the ways in which I had to, potentially betray myself. These are the things. I had to have an affair. I don't know if had to have an affair with a minister, but it's something that happened, right? You ultimately find yourself in a position where, and this is true for life as well, where you have to forgive yourself as a young black person for the things you have to do in order to survive. Can you talk about that?
I think the biggest, when you talk about responsibility and our feeling of responsibility to home, like lelapa, and it's on your back everywhere you go. Yep. And whether you have siblings or whether you have aunts, uncles, there's just this big network that you are responsible amongst. Not responsible for, not responsible to, but like you're working on something together. So for TC, he ran. And he ran in his teenage years. He heard Skupu and he ran from home. He left a disabled brother, which he was kind of his brother's primary caregiver in a sense. So to leave him and to hear him, then the parents really resent him that you're our eldest son and you naturally need to take the business. Your brother can't take the business. And for you to run is more than building your dream, you're collapsing the family. And you're not just collapsing this generation, you're collapsing your grandfather's building. So his real forgiveness is about that, towards himself, and to come home and to an extent. Even though he has nothing to apologize for. You don't need to apologize for pursuing your dreams, but I think it's the way that we do it. Yeah, like I'll use a personal story. I was in medical school for 2 years, and as opposed to properly telling my father, like, I'm going to do this, I just kind of pieced out, chickened out, and stopped taking his calls. Sure. You know what I mean? That's insane now. But it was the stress and the pressure of that conversation. So even though I didn't have to apologize for following my dreams, it's an apology because we were doing something.
So that's why you mentioned scientists earlier on. You were like, we don't have enough scientists. It's like, that's actually your dad.
That's the carrier, yeah.
Yeah. Andile,
I think for Nomandla, because she, basically her story is coming of age and the goal is to finish matric.
Right.
And it is to finish matric at Cameron House. And for some reason, in grade 12, something happens and she is unable to do that, right? And so for her, it's, sure, I guess that would be where she needs to be okay with herself, because she couldn't really help how she left Cameron House. Really, she couldn't help it. It was it was hard, right? And so she had to do what she had to do.
Disrupted.
And because she presents as, black girl and all these other things, she is unable to continue with her studies. And so when she goes back to the township, it's like, she has friends there, and it's like, but and now what? You were supposed to finish matric there. At some point, one character, Nande, says to her, just go back to the city, just go back, and she's unable to go back. And so for her, it's really being okay with the fact that, she, that opportunity, she wasn't able to complete the mission.
She was also so young.
She is very young.
Right? And,
Yeah.
And that's.
She's a baby.
Was for you, what went into that choice? I mean, I know she was in high school, etc., but, like such an incredible story about someone so young.
Yeah.
Who's really still in their formative years. And the impact of all of that in their formative years. What was that like for you to write about it? Why do you think that was important?
I think, sure. It's also about, I think you'll see, there's in the novel where she is, she kind of has a fight with Grace. There's a domestic worker called Grace. And Grace says to her, an old woman like you, there's this thing that, young girls are, there's actually a word for it, but it's gone in my head. A young black girl is not seen as,
a young black girl.
just a girl, right? So I think
a lot of our older sisters, sort of like that oldest sister in the family, who becomes deputy mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Parentified, basically.
Yes, a
Yeah.
parentified
So
child,
I think that was the idea around that. But I also think in looking at her experiences in the school setting, you're able to place her experience in other social settings, like the workplace. I mean, there's a game, I think I was talking about it, the game of push that happens there. In the workplace, it's you are being pushed out in different ways.
Yeah.
Whereas in the book, the girls are literally pushing her into a basin, right? So, so it's making it more accessible,
Right.
the story to be more, for it to land, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense.
It is crazy that we send our children, you know what I mean, to the wild.
Yeah, to the wild,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like
Who's
the
been the
wildest
wildest?
cultural
We don't know
enemies.
any
Man.
better.
Yeah.
No, I mean, boarding school, like, okay, you.
The
deal
jungle.
with-
Yeah. What I loved about all of your characters is that they, you kind of pick up that they're all a bit imperfect. You know, they're all entirely imperfect characters, dealing with an imperfect world. Like sometimes TC's a dick. Right? Like he's super paranoid in some instances. Sometimes I'm just like, TC, no, you're not helping. You know, I think there's something quite beautiful about writing these characters in sort of this imperfect way. Where I think in a world like we know they're in these sort of capitalist trappings, but in a world that expects you to be the perfect victim. Right? If you're not the perfect victim, then you're not a victim at all, Chief.
Yeah.
That's why I talk about him being half thing. He's at such a point
being
of half person, half ghost,
Right.
that the pretense that goes into full society personhood is not there. He's been in the shadows for so long that he doesn't have so he just
Right.
hardly
Yeah.
think, and he's just.
So even he
he's
doesn't
dead
like
to-
himself.
His life is stressful, and he finds therapy in sonics and music.
Okay.
So he loves that, and he loves
And for the reader, why was it? I mean, for me, I love seeing young black imperfect characters. I think there's something incredibly humanizing about that, especially for young black people like Nomandla, who feel the need to perform gratitude,
Yeah.
to
TC
perform
gave
being the. Yes, he didn't, and which is something I love and hate about him, right? But that's the point, I think, sort of about these imperfect characters, that there's something there's something deeply humanizing about that. Andile, with Nomandla, this young black girl who's expected to be very grateful and to sort of, and yet she finds herself in her imperfections, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, shame. Yeah. Nomandla goes through the most. But when you see her in a comfortable place, and then you hear stories about how she told kids to climb up a tree and jump, right? So she has a
At
really...
home.
Yeah, at home, before she went to Cameron House. So she was a strong
good.
character.
Ntato's like, she's worse than TC, bro. Like, it's like, why were you telling me about TC?
Yeah, so she's not a perfect, individual. And I mean, she
Right.
gets into, arguments with her mother. And the mother is also not a perfect individual as well.
100%.
Yo, Ulanga is just and then in the school, and I think that is where also she finds her voice, when it clicks to her that I don't have to perform gratitude, right?
Sorry about that. Mervyn is cracking the
I'm
whip.
wrapping
Don't have to perform gratitude.
Yeah, she doesn't have to perform gratitude. So she's asked to do this dance, and she does something else on stage as a form of resisting the whole thing around her being thankful for being in that space. I'll stop there. You can go ahead.
No, that's fine. I can't remember the question now.
Yeah, it's just sort of like about imperfect characters, and I think we can do it very quickly before we do open up. Thank you for that reminder. A big
Do
part
perfect characters
of-
exist?
No,
sorry?
because people are not
really-
perfect.
No,
you
for
know,
sure.
And
Are you talking about like a righteous
think-
victim? Like,
I'm sorry.
you talking about like a righteous victim? where-
Yeah, I think more in that sense, or you know, just a character like Umbali, who actively knows, you know, what she's doing is not right, but
Yeah.
is driven by.
But she had like pressures on her, right? You know, she does have a grandmother that she loves and wants to support, and a mother who is sick, and you know where she is standing with the issues that she's having. For her, that was like almost like the logical thing to do.
Right.
You know, even though, I mean, depending on from which lens you look at this thing, that, you know, an older person is taking advantage of a younger person. But in her mind as well, she did enjoy, you know, being called all these wonderful things
Right.
and being praised. But then I think ultimately, like at the end, when she realizes what has been happening, she literally ends up in hospital before she almost kind of like stops. So like the stress becomes so much. And I think all of us go through something like that. You know, your body has to almost like break down first before you realize that I'm doing too much. You know, some people make such big mistakes at work and get fired before they realize that, you know, the things that they've been doing without paying attention, you know, just always on the go. You know, I used to, at some point I worked in mining, and safety was like still is a very big part of, you know, operations in mining. And we found that people have incidents because they've been doing this thing so many times every single day. They don't pay attention anymore, and, you know, then something happens. And I think all of us, you know, we go through life and we just always just going for the next and doing this, and people are asking for that. And,
Right.
you know, there's no chance to almost like stop. And actually, we don't pay attention to our own lives, you know. And in Bali's case, she ended up in hospital from stress, you know. And that's when she realized, if I don't do something different, I will die, you know, because then I think we take it for granted that stress does kill people, you know. They call it, you know, the diseases with different names, but, you know, some of them do emanate from someone just doing too much. And yeah, and forgiving yourself after that, I guess it's a process, you know, for her as well.
A big part of what we were wanting to do today was to also sort of kind of open it up more widely. A very, very important part of our intention here was to then, you know, look to you and pose some questions. We were supposed to have them projected up there, but Mervyn hates me. So unfortunately, I'm kidding, but we will pose some questions. You're welcome to pose some questions back, but we, you know, there's some questions just around the themes we've been talking about, right? The first being the idea of perfecting your normal. You know, and you know, do you? What is the thing maybe that sort of helps you perfect a normal that makes you feel like you're not as alienated from the world around you, that makes you feel like you make more sense to the people around you? Maybe I'll ask one of the authors to speak before. If anybody would like to answer the question, please just raise your hand. But I will ask Nthato, sort of this performance of a normal for TC, and his struggle with that, sort of, you know, with the French liberals, etc., etc. What helped him sort of perform a normal that makes you feel less mentally ill in a world that makes you mentally ill?
TC goes through breakdown as well. So there's the point where his body gives out, his mind gives out, his body gives out from stress. But I guess towards him performing normal, it's letting go of a lot of resentment. You know, when they talk about destination addiction and yeah, that's the obsession and the path doesn't matter. So for him, letting go of that and realizing that, oh shit, I'm not a dream, you know, Gemoto. You know, let me establish this. Yeah, let me reform my personhood. Let me remember. Let me put things together. Yeah.
Yeah. Another question was, are there parts of yourself that you kind of feel like absolutely would not make sense to other people so much? Or everyone's like, fuck yeah. And I was like, bro, what do you even mean? Like, and, you know, parts of yourself that absolutely would not make sense to other people, that, you know, that are so at odds with other people's lived experiences, and what does that mean for you? How does that make you feel? I mean, do you move through the world feeling entirely othered all the time? So, I mean, everybody nodded their head about the question of, you know, the experiences that you simply can't explain. How do you work with that? I see a hand over there. How do you operate in everyday life when you know you're carrying that behind you?
Wow, I think my answer would almost like combine both questions that you had, like perfecting your normal as well. So for me, I mean, this conversation has been so, I don't know if I want to use the word triggering or anything like that. So my background is I'm the first person in my family, like all my family generations, to make it to university and to graduate. So obviously the expectations that come with that as well, the hope and all of that, and obviously the pressure that comes with that as well. But in terms of like, I've had to work really, really hard to step out and be the person that I am. Because a lot of the times, and with Mbali's character, I see myself a lot, except for the affair, of course.
No one wants to own the affair.
Yeah, because my focus this entire time growing up has always been to make it, you know,
Right.
like to be there for the family. So there's a lot of things that I never really did, like as a teenager, you know. I was not a party person. I was not, you know, like drinking or whatever the case. I was always just home because it was always the one focus and stuff. And stepping out into that world now where I had to work, where I had to meet people, I was very naive. You know, so there's a lot of new experiences as well. And in terms of like, and I'm so different to a lot of people in my family as well, because I'm like the nerd in the family, you know. So now I'm So now I'm in a space where I'm trying to discover myself. I'm trying to, when I see something that interests me, I'm stepping into it. You know, when you stay in a township, you know, if you are someone that there's not a lot of opportunities for people to like go to theater, to read books and stuff. So if you're someone like that, you become very different, and it's very easy to hide yourself, you know. But now I'm trying to do quite a bit of that. This is even the first time that I'm attending this festival, because I've always been like, So,
Welcome.
Yeah, so for me, perfecting my normal as well, it's about, I understand now that I am a certain type of person. I'm never going to be perfect, but I have a vision. I have a vision for my family. I have a vision for myself. And maybe there's no definite success exactly, but there's certainly like improvements that I'm seeing and that I want to continue seeing. one of those things is in my family, uncles and stuff, they never got opportunities because, apartheid and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But now I have a vision of creating a family where there's more people that are financially independent than those that are dependent. And I don't know what success look like in that, but that's just something that I'm working towards, not just for myself, but for the little ones that are coming through as well. So yeah, it's very complicated. It's quite complex, but yeah, so this conversation, I just wanted to say, was really beautiful for me, and I'm glad I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Shout out to you. Can the mic? Oh, did you want to go? Oh, okay. I think we had a girl in the front here who wanted to. And my guy with the luscious beard. Wow, what a fantastic beard, bro. Please go for it.
Yeah, hi. So it's a complicated one. On the one hand, I am autistic, and so, that.
In the club, we all fell.
That's it's a dynamic, right? Because on the one hand, it has been very affirming to me because there have been so many instances in my life where, I just have, I try to explain my thoughts to someone and they fundamentally cannot understand how any human being could think like that. And I'm just but I don't get it. And they're but, but on the other hand, and I think what ties into a lot of the conversations we've been having is about the commodification of mental illness. And so I have access to that diagnosis because of many years of therapy that I was able to go to because of my wealth and positionality and things. But also living, I used to attach myself to that identity, that autistic identity, very strongly when I was first diagnosed, which was, not even that long ago, 4 or 5 years ago. And as I have spent more time with myself and with it, I've become more aware of the flawed systems that we have created to box these illnesses and these conditions and things that make it that calling myself autistic is in some ways an elite tag because I was able to access
The diagnosis.
the things that access the diagnosis. Yeah, exactly. And it all fits within this kind of capitalist system where there are so many people invested in creating mental illnesses for people to have because they can make money off that.
Right.
That, but I think finding community for me and finding the connections despite feeling really alienated initially was a lot about attaching to the label and now has been completely the opposite in many ways to not see the world through the lens that puts those things in place.
That makes you carry them.
Yeah,
heavily.
yeah, exactly.
Right. My guy with the beard. It's called hold all applause, but go for it. Thank you for that.
Thanks a lot for this great panel. I have not read any of your books, but something that really came out for me was the theme of belonging. And that really pops up, and I don't know if that came out for you guys, but something I wanted to share from my side is I'm brown, duh.
The beard suggests it.
The beard suggests so much. But I was born in Tanzania, actually, And I've been in South Africa for the past 10 years, and I believe this is my home, right? Tanzania was the place I was born. It's the reality that I knew. It's the reality that my parents knew. It's the reality that their parents knew. But there is always this one question that I've gotten in my life. But where are you really from?
Yeah.
And if a person of color would get a rand for every time someone asked them that question, fam, we would be politician billionaires, right? And it's so interesting that either I'm a Durbanite to someone, either I'm someone from India, but I'm never someone who is Tanzanian or South African. I'm never that.
Right.
I, in fact, remember I went to Morocco once and I showed the person my passport. And he's like, how did you get this passport? I'm like, I was born there. No, it's not possible. No, you can't have this passport. Are you sure this is your passport? It was fascinating for me, right?
Right.
It was an identity crisis in every sense of the word.
Right.
But anyway, something that really connected to what the previous speaker with autism spoke about. That I think we often try too much to belong to the spaces that we are born in.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a square peg in a round hole, and stop putting it in there.
Right.
Yes.
And I think that we need to find the tribes that understand that we are no more in boxes.
Yeah.
A brown person can be born in an African country, and they can be African. Just the way the previous speaker spoke about the fact that she was the first university graduate. I'm the same, first university graduate. And for a long time, I was like, why am I the university graduate? But,
Right.
but the reality is, I think we need to find those tribes and find those spaces where we belong.
That's incredible. I want to try something very quickly. Sort of just this idea of alienation has come out quite a lot. And we'll do it by show of hands and just ask like how often you feel alienated, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, or maybe you've never felt such a thing in your life.
Hourly.
And you are perfect. Eh? And I am asking questions that don't make any sense to you. So let's start with daily. I mean, okay, hourly. Nthato got you. He was like, I am alienated right now. Chief. As we speak, I am alienated.
I was just proposing it. It was a proposition.
But let's start with daily. Yeah, I mean, please, if you raise your hand and you want to offer a thought, to go with that hand, when the other hands go up, yours can stay up. We have two hands. Let's talk
got the
about
mic.
daily alienation.
She's got the mic.
You've already got the mic, dog. You
No, sorry.
got the mic, bro.
Yeah, I was actually going to say something to jump off the two previous speakers as well. And I think it also ties into alienation because, so if we start from where we were talking about how we so closely identify with where we come from, right? Home is so ingrained into us. And also, when we try and break away from that, like I spoke about, trying to find your tribe, trying to find a community that understands you, especially in terms of, it's almost like inheriting a label of like a certain mental illness. It's just part of human nature to sort of box people into certain categories. It's human nature for us to try and make sense of things and categorize the best we can. But I do think in terms of finding communities and finding a space as somebody who is mentally ill or on the neurodiverse spectrum, I would like to offer or like propose that people actually approach these subjects and just like talking or interacting with people in general with more nuance.
Right.
You can, you can respect the natural inclination to say, okay, so say for example, you have the label of autism, so you must be this way, and you might like these sort of things. You're probably going to look like this. You know, it goes as deep as that. But if we, as a society, as individuals, you know, just in the world, it doesn't matter. You know, like in a university setting, for example, at home, we need to look at a person from a multifaceted point of view. Just because you identify with a certain label, that does not encompass who you are as a person. And where you come from can hold a lot in terms of like your personality or how you represent yourself in the world, but you also need to have that nuance of saying like, yes, this is a part of who I am, but I can also go beyond that. Yeah.
Thank you. In the front, with the great hoop earrings.
Oh, me?
Yes. Fantastic hoop earrings.
Thank you. Okay, so to answer or to build off of beard and autism,
Oh, man. You guys are wilding out now.
I want to say that both stories were very relatable because I am South African, you know, and I'm Shona as well, and I have a Shona name, so it's... Thank you.
That comes from the same general area.
So a lot of it is just me trying to prove my South Africanness or anything else of the sort. And it feels like a very weird performance where I'm like fighting black people about me being here as a person. And then I get the, oh, but like, where are you really from? Okay, well, I was born in KZN. Okay, cool, but like, where are your parents from? Right. Where are your grandparents right now? Like, what is your dad?
Where was your family in the 1600s?
That's what it feels like. And it's so awkward and so difficult.
Right.
And it's like, why am I fighting for this? And it's like, because it's true. Because no matter what you say about me, the government thinks I'm South African, and that's all that. Because it's paper, it's not real. You know, I'm always going to be Shona no matter where I am. But South Africanism, or the citizenship, can come and go. Yeah. And right now it's in my palms. So that kind of like identity crisis, it's kind of like, oh, but like, what am I? Who am I? Because, spoiler alert, my parents went around during apartheid. So it's like a whole other feeling.
Sure.
That's one thing. And the second thing is, I've also been diagnosed with autism. You know, and I did.
Where's that coming from?
We love you, by the way. Really. You're doing great.
And I didn't like it because I felt like they had just given what I thought were just like my fun personality into like a problem. Yeah. And I have a friend who is autistic. And I spoke to her afterwards and I said, did you think I was autistic? And she said, yes. And I was like, oh. And she goes, but you're more sensory seeking. So instead of like avoiding eye contact and staying in a corner, you have to leave the house. Sure. Yeah, I just felt really unfair. Although I do love everyone who is autistic, and I've identified autistic friends and been right. It just feels like for me it was a very unfair moment.
There are a lot of people who love to leave the house who are grooving right now. I have no idea that the century. Yeah. They have no clue.
Yeah, so...
And that's beautiful, yeah.
So I also wanted to add, like, you brought up the idea that people are different. Like, you'll say you have a diagnosis, this is who you are. And someone else said that spectrum does not mean, like, the severity. That's a gradient. The spectrum means that there are all these ways it could manifest, you know. But with the social issues, that makes me feel alienated on a daily basis, you know. Because now everything is making sense, but in a horrible way. I thought it was just a lot of fun. I'm allegedly not.
You are, though. Great deal of fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, please go for it. We've got about, I think...
I would just want to ask a question. Who here identifies as neurodivergent in any way? Put up your hands. I just want to see. No.
You look shocked. You look...
I'm not shocked. I'm just interested, and I have a theory about creatives.
Please go for it. We'd love to hear it.
you know, when someone says you have an eye for something, that's the neurodivergent eye. It's the ability to experience something and then describe it at the same time. It happens with music, it happens with art, it happens with writers especially. And it's a gift, and it can be fun, but it also sucks at funerals, right?
I think, okay, please go for it. Gentlemen, is there any more hands? No, okay.
I was waiting for you to compliment my beard because I'm trying.
Bro, you know what? It's the lights.
The guy with the okay beard.
It's the lighting. But now that I see...
Right? It's the angle. My right side is a lot better. So for me, I think it's the feeling of being other. And I've even gone to the conclusion where I think for us as humans, we seek for belonging by othering other people.
Right.
And I'll give you an example. So when I lived in Monti, which is in the Eastern Cape, there was you are like a rural kind of Xhosa, and then you're like the township kind of Xhosa,
right?
And then you're like the bro, house
Yeah,
at Oaks kind of Xhosa, right?
Yeah.
So that's how we discriminated amongst each other. But when we all got to Cape Town, we were all from the Eastern Cape. Like, Jay, Eastern Cape Xhosas, hands up, right? Right? We can, kind of thing.
Right.
And then that was the thing that we discriminated ourselves against, you know, amongst Xhosas. Then there were like, there wasn't like you're a PE Xhosa or we were all from the Eastern Cape, and then these Cape Town Xhosas that are Xhosa light, you know, so that was this discrimination. And then I went for exchange to the US, and now it didn't matter that I was Xhosa. What only mattered was that I was South African. So every South African was like, whether you're vendor or whatever, we're from South Africa and we're brothers, kind of thing, right? But then I think to myself, if I'd met that very same person, maybe in Cape Town, the fact that I was Xhosa was going to veto the fact that he was vendor, then, you know what I mean? It's like I would have othered.
Things are tense.
If we were in Cape Town, then I would have othered them because that makes me belong in the Xhosaverse in Cape Town.
Absolutely.
But if I was back home, I would have othered the PE Xhosa or the rural Xhosa because that helps me belong in society. So that's how I've navigated the being others. And I just realized that you'll always be, the person that doesn't belong. You'll always be too this or too that. You'll always be too little of this or too little of that. And I really love the fact around forgiving yourself, because a lot of the forgiving that I've had to do, there was a point where I absolutely hated my accent because it made me feel like I wasn't black enough, right? And I overcompensated in that I learned very, very deep Xhosa. And that made me feel like, okay, I'm Xhosa.
And to pronounce your hard R's.
Yes. Right? So just navigating those worlds and then realizing that actually, I just need to forgive myself. I am who I am.
Right.
I am a collection of the places that I come from.
Yes.
Right? And
But you'll never forget the beautiful deep Xhosa that you learned.
Yes, and I
That is.
I always flex with that when I need to. So that's been my experience with regards to feeling like an other in a space and how I resolve that tension, and it's always a tension. Because I just say, look, I'm colorful the way I am, and this is what I bring to the world, and other people are colorful in their different ways, right? And this is how we live with each other.
Beautiful.
A healthy outlook and a healthy beard. I will repeat. The idea of hold all applause is actually that we'll hold all applause right until the end. And so just want to say shout out to everybody. Thank you all so much. This has been incredible. And we will be back again next year, doing this again next year. Thank you, please, to our wonderful authors. Please can we give them an incredible round of applause. And we are 2 minutes late, but I think we started 2 minutes late, so I think it's fair. Thank you so much.